When the High Council appointed me as Senior Containment Officer for Sol 3, or Earth, as the natives insist on calling it, I thought it would be the cushiest assignment in the quadrant. Monitor a mid-level civilization of bipedal mammals who had barely figured out how to split the atom? Please. The most exciting part of my day was supposed to be choosing which flavor of nutrient paste to consume during my mandatory break periods. But no, the humans just couldn't behave like every other reasonable species in the containment program. For those of you reading this report who aren't familiar with containment protocols, and if you're not, how did you get security clearance? Let me explain. The Galactic Security Council established the containment program roughly 12,000 years ago after the SETI Proxima incident. We don't talk about the SETI Proxima incident. Let's just say it involved a pre-FTL civilization getting their appendages on quantum tunneling technology before they developed the ethical framework to handle it responsibly. 3-star systems were converted into exotic particles before we managed to shut it down. Since then, it's been standard procedure to place monitoring stations around developing worlds to ensure they don't accidentally obliterate themselves or, worse, their neighbors. Most species are content to evolve at their own pace, occasionally needing minor course corrections through subtle intervention. A targeted solar flare here, a convenient natural disaster there. Nothing dramatic. But humans? Oh, by the 7 moons of Crixus Prime, these creatures are something else entirely. The trouble started, as it always does with humans, because someone got curious. Dr. Amara Jackson was supposed to be just another scientist working on their primitive rocket technology. Our projections indicated her species was at least 3 centuries away from developing anything remotely capable of interstellar travel. Her research into experimental propulsion systems was flagged as non-threatening in our quarterly risk assessments. That was our first mistake. What our analysts failed to account for was Dr. Jackson's extraordinary intellect combined with her complete disregard for established scientific boundaries. Where other human scientists looked at the universal speed limit and accepted it as fact, Dr. Jackson saw it as a personal challenge. Rules are just suggestions wrapped in authority, she was fond of saying. I've had that quote plastered on my office wall for the past 3 cycles as a reminder of how spectacularly wrong our initial assessment was. The surveillance footage from what the humans call March 17th, approximately 22 rotations before the breach, shows Dr. Jackson in her laboratory beneath the new Atacama Research Facility. It was 3:47 local time, long after her colleagues had departed. Tomas, are you seeing this? She was speaking to her assistant, Dr. Tomas Reyes-Win, who was monitoring equipment from a separate chamber. Their communication was being conducted through their primitive audio devices. The readings can't be right, he replied, his voice tinny through the speakers. We need more energy than exists in the entire solar system to bend space-time that way. Dr. Jackson's response was, in retrospect, the moment everything changed. She laughed, a short, triumphant sound, and said, "What if we're not bending space? What if we're slipping between its folds?" That was when our automated systems should have triggered an immediate intervention protocol. But due to a bureaucratic oversight, for which 3 of my predecessors have been reassigned to monitoring methane-based life forms in the Epsilon sector, the alert was categorized as theoretical physics discussion rather than imminent breakthrough in prohibited technology. By the time a live analyst reviewed the footage 12 hours later, Dr. Jackson had already proved her hypothesis in a small-scale experiment. She had created, and I still find this difficult to report without a sense of existential dread, a functional wormhole generator the size of a human writing implement. You need to see this right now. Agent Krillnox said, barging into my sleeping quarters without proper authorization protocols. I was still new to the position, having only been appointed after the unfortunate retirement of my predecessor following some incident involving contraband Earth ice cream. This had better be an actual emergency. I grumbled, my sensory appendages still retracted in sleep mode. The last time you woke me during rest cycle, it was because humans had launched another one of their primitive rovers to their red planet. They've discovered fold space, Krillnox said without preamble. I remember extending my perception stalks so rapidly that I nearly strained a tendril. That's impossible. Their civilization is at least 3 centuries away from that technology. I know, but they've done it. Small scale, but the principles are sound. And worse, they've already recognized the potential applications. The recording Krillnox showed me still haunts my dream cycles. Dr. Jackson and Dr. Reyes-Nguyen had expanded their initial experiment. The wormhole was now large enough to pass a small object through. In this case, a spherical fruit humans call an orange. If my calculations are correct, Dr. Jackson was saying, there's no theoretical limit to the scalability. We could transport people, equipment, entire ships. Dr. Reyes-Nguyen finished, his expression displaying the human indicator for extreme excitement. Amara, do you realize what this means? The Alpha Centauri mission wouldn't take decades. It would be instantaneous. Forget Alpha Centauri, Dr. Jackson replied, her voice dropping to what humans consider a dramatic whisper. This is a gateway to anywhere in the universe. That was when I initiated my first priority Omega containment measure as senior officer. For those without clearance for such information, a priority Omega involves immediate selective memory modification of the subjects, destruction of all research materials, and the introduction of a critical, but non-lethal, flaw in the underlying theoretical framework that IT should have worked. The intervention team executed the protocol flawlessly. Dr. Jackson and Dr. Reyes-Nguyen had their memories adjusted to believe their experiment had failed catastrophically. All physical evidence was atomized. The mathematical proof underlying their discovery was corrupted in all of their documentation. But we underestimated two critical factors: Dr. Jackson's extraordinary memory and the human's annoying habit of keeping physical backup. Records 0.7 rotations after our intervention, I was reviewing routine surveillance when I noticed something odd. Dr. Jackson was behaving normally, appearing appropriately disappointed about her failed research. But Dr. Reyes-Nguyen had called in sick, a human custom allowing them to avoid work obligations, for 3 consecutive days. Run a location trace on subject Reyes-Nguyen. I ordered the system. Subject not found within scanning parameters. The system responded, that's when the feeling humans call a pit in your stomach, an inaccurate description, as I have 17 stomachs, formed in my primary digestive tract. Expand search to continental level. Subject not found. Global search. Subject not found. I don't often experience panic, but at that moment, I felt my chromatophores involuntarily shifting to alarm crimson. Search for any unusual energy signatures matching fold space parameters. The system took 3.7 seconds to respond. An eternity. Anomalous energy signature detected. Location. Human designation, Svalbard Archipelago. Remote ice cave structure. By the time our rapid response team reached the location, we found an empty facility carved into the ice. The residual energy signature confirmed our worst fears. Someone had generated a stable wormhole large enough for human passage. And more distressingly, they had taken equipment with them. Equipment that could be used to generate another portal from the other side. Dr. Reyes-Nguyen had escaped our containment. But to where? The answer came 3 rotations later when our long-range sensors detected an unauthorized fold space event near what humans call the TRAPPIST, one system, roughly 40 light-years from Earth. Specifically, the signature originated from the 4th planet, a world that, according to our database, had been flagged as potentially suitable for human habitation. How did they even know about that planet? I demanded during the emergency council meeting. Their observation technology shouldn't be able to detect its habitability. Council members Raz K, our intelligence specialist, shifted uncomfortably. We may have underestimated their astronomical capabilities. Their space telescope, James Webb, has been more effective than anticipated. So, let me understand this correctly, said High Counselor Vex Pran, her voice modulated to express extreme displeasure. Not only have humans discovered fold space technology centuries ahead of schedule, but they've also used it to establish an unauthorized colony beyond our containment perimeter. It appears to be a small research outpost, not a colony, I clarified, as if that made the situation any less catastrophic. Preliminary scans indicate fewer than 20 humans. And how, exactly, did 20 humans and their equipment evade our planetary security grid? The High Counselor asked with dangerous calm. This was the part one had been dreading. It appears they used a series of small jumps, each below our detection threshold, from multiple points around their planet. By the time our systems recognized the pattern, they had already made the final jump from their moon base. The moon base we weren't concerned about because it was, and I quote from your predecessor's report, a symbolic gesture without practical application. Vex Brand's bioluminescent spots were pulsing with barely contained fury. That would be the one, yes. The council chamber erupted into the chaotic color shifting that indicates extreme agitation among our kind. It took the ceremonial chime of order, rung 3 times, to restore calm. Senior officers ex Valorn, the High Counselor said finally, "You will contain this breach. Immediately. The humans must be returned to their planet, their memories adjusted, and stronger protocols implemented. We cannot, will not, allow another Seti Proxima incident." I bowed in acknowledgement, my chromatophores displaying the appropriate pattern of humility and determination. "And Zuex Valorn," she added as I turned to leave, "failure in this matter will result in your permanent reassignment to monitoring the methane-based life forms of Epsilon Eridani." Having seen the holos of those assignments, endless cycles of watching amorphous blobs slowly digest minerals, I was highly motivated to succeed. The operation to retrieve the human researchers from Trappist 1D should have been simple. Our technology was vastly superior. Our tactical team was composed of veterans from the Orion Arm pacification, and we had the element of surprise. Yet somehow, upon arrival, we found nothing but an automated message buoy floating in orbit around the planet. To whom it may concern, the message began in standard human English. "If you're receiving this, you've likely noticed our little relocation project. Don't worry, we haven't gone far. Just far enough to establish proof of concept." The message was signed Dr. A. Jackson. A scan of the planet revealed no human life signs, no technology signatures, nothing to indicate they had ever been there except for a small, abandoned shelter. Clearly, a decoy. They knew we were coming, Lieutenant Grixpor said, stating the obvious with the special talent only career military officers possess. But how? I wonder aloud. Our containment operations are undetectable to their level of technology. That's when the second message arrived. This one transmitted directly to our ship's communication array, meaning they somehow knew our communication frequencies. "Hello, Containment Vessel T checks 1138. Dr. Jackson's voice came through clearly. "Sorry to miss you, but we had a schedule to keep. By the way, your cloaking technology has a distinct gravitational signature. Might want to look into that. Oh, and thanks for confirming our hypothesis about non-human intelligent life. The betting pool back at base paid out handsomely." The transmission ended with human laughter that I may have damaged a control panel with my irritation tendrils. The repair requisition is still pending. This isn't just a breach of protocol. I see that during my emergency transmission to High Council. This is active resistance. They're mocking us. High Counselor Vex Brand's holographic image flickered slightly in my quarters. Even across interstellar space, her displeasure was palpable. "Need I remind you of the consequence of failure, Senior Officer?" "With respect, Counselor," I replied, fighting to keep my chromatophores from displaying my frustration. "I believe we need to reassess our approach. These humans are demonstrating capabilities far beyond our behavioral models." "Explain." "They're pattern matching at an alarming rate. Every time we deploy a countermeasure, they adapt faster than our protocols anticipate. It's as if they're designed specifically to overcome obstacles." Zrazeke's image appeared alongside Vex Brand's. That's actually not far from the truth. Our evolutionary studies suggest their species developed in an environment that repeatedly forced adaptation. Their entire history is marked by overcoming what should have been extinction-level events. Fascinating evolutionary discourse, Vex Brand cut in dryly, but it doesn't solve our immediate problem. "Where are they now?" As if on cue, my alert system chimed. "Fold space signature detected in the Kepler 186 system," the automated voice announced. "They're on the move again," I reported. "This will be their third unauthorized jump in 7 rotations. Intercept them," Vex Brand ordered. "Whatever resources you need." What followed was an increasingly absurd game of interstellar hide-and-seek. Each time we detected a fold space signature and dispatched a containment team, we would arrive to find nothing but another message buoy, each more infuriating than the last, from Proxima Centauri b. "Almost caught us. Better luck next time." From Kepler 442b, Lovely weather here, but the local equivalent of mosquitoes is the size of terriers. Definitely not putting this one on the colonization list. From WASP, 12B. Too hot. Going somewhere cooler. P.S. Your pursuit vessels leave ion trails that are visible to our instruments. I want to fix that too. With each failed attempt, the situation grew more dire. Not only were humans now aware of our existence, but they were actively evading our containment measures while exploring star systems they had no business visiting for at least another millennium. Worse still, their fold space jumps were becoming more refined, more efficient. They were learning. We need to change our approach, I told the council during our 7th emergency meeting in as many cycles. Pursuit isn't working. What do you suggest? Vexpran asked, her tone suggesting my continued employment and possibly existence depended on my answer. We need to understand their motivation, I said. These aren't random jumps. There's a pattern we're missing. You're not suggesting we try to think like humans. Council member Drakadar asked with what my translator rendered as horror. Precisely that, I confirmed. Their logic may seem chaotic, but there's always an underlying purpose. After considerable debate, during which at least 3 council members threatened to resign rather than debase themselves with mammalian thought patterns, the council authorized a deep analysis team to examine every star system the humans had visited. IT took 3 full cycles of intensive analysis, with our best xenopsychologists working around the clock. We mapped jump coordinates, planetary characteristics, temporal patterns, everything we could think of, and finally we saw it. They're creating a map, I realized, studying the holographic display of their jump points. Each location they visited forms part of a larger navigational network. A network for what purpose? Council members Razake asked. The answer was as obvious as it was horrifying. They're establishing an escape route, not just for their small team, but potentially for their entire species. I assembled an elite team drawn from various disciplines. Tactical specialists from the Containment Enforcement Division, xenobiologists specialized in human psychology, and even a few rogue thinkers known for unconventional approaches, a euphemism for those who occasionally break protocol themselves. We need to anticipate their next move, I told them during our first strategy session aboard my command vessel. Stop reacting and start predicting. Lieutenant Grixpor, who had earned my reluctant respect after the Trappist, one incident, displayed a 3-dimensional star map. We've identified 17 possible destinations based on their established pattern, he explained. We've ranked them by probability, with the highest being the Tau Ceti system. Why Tau Ceti? Asked Dr. Quibquib, our theoretical physicist who had joined the team after calculating that the humans' rate of technological advancement had increased by 732% since their first successful fold space jump. 2 reasons, Grixpor replied. First, our historical surveillance records show they've been obsessed with that system since their early radio astronomy days. Second, it fits their pattern of selecting systems with potentially habitable planets that would require minimal terraforming. They're being too obvious, said Vrextau, one of our unconventional thinkers whose previous career in counterintelligence had ended under circumstances classified beyond even my clearance level. These humans have demonstrated remarkable adaptability. They know we're tracking them now. The obvious choice is exactly what they want us to think. I considered this. You believe it's a diversion? Vrextau's skin rippled in the pattern indicating absolute certainty. I would bet my tertiary appendage on it. They're trying to spread our resources thin. This sparked a heated debate that lasted nearly a full rotation. In the end, I made the call that would either salvage my career or doom me to an eternity of methane blob observation. We split our forces, I announced. A visible pursuit team to Tau Ceti, making no effort to conceal their approach. Meanwhile, our actual intercept team will deploy to Epsilon Indi. The system, I believe, is their true destination. Based on what evidence? Grixpor challenged. Based on what I would do if I were them, I replied. And after studying their behavior patterns for 19 cycles, I'm starting to think like a human, which is both useful and deeply disturbing. The Epsilon Indi gambit paid off, though not in the way I expected. We arrived in the system and immediately detected human technology signatures on the second planet, a cold, rocky world with a thin but breathable atmosphere. Our stealth approach was perfect. They had no warning of our arrival. But as we entered orbit and prepared our containment team, we received a transmission from the surface. "Took you long enough," came Dr. Jackson's voice. "We've been here for almost 2 weeks." The view screen activated to show her standing in what appeared to be a surprisingly well-established research base. Behind her, at least 30 humans were visible, working at various stations with a level of technology that should have been centuries beyond their capability. "How did you know we would come here?" I asked, momentarily forgetting protocol in my shock. Doctor Jackson smiled, the expression humans make by baring their teeth that somehow isn't meant as a threat display. "We didn't. We're in 17 different star systems right now. This is just one of them. My primary cardiac organ nearly ceased functioning." 17. Initially, yes. Though by now, probably more like 23. We've got quite an efficient fold space network operating. This was beyond containment breach. This was a full-scale breakout. "Dr. Jackson," I said, trying to regain my professional composure, "your activities constitute a severe violation of Galactic Security Council protocols established for your species' own protection. I am authorized to implement whatever measures necessary to return you and your colleagues to Earth and eliminate all knowledge of this technology." "That would be quite the trick," she replied, looking utterly unconcerned. "Considering over 4,000 humans now have direct knowledge of fold space technology. Are you planning to memory wipe all of us?" 4,000, I repeated, certain I had misheard. "Oh yes, did I forget to mention? We've been recruiting. Turns out when you show brilliant scientists actual proof of working beyond light speed travel, they're eager to join the program." At that moment, my second-in-command, Agent Krillnox, burst onto the bridge. "Commander, emergency transmission from the Tau SETI team." The message was brief but catastrophic. "Ambush. Human vessels with advanced weaponry. Retreating with heavy damage. They have weapons." I turned back to Dr. Jackson's smug image on the screen. "Just defensive capabilities," she said with a dismissive wave. "Nothing too destructive. We're explorers, not conquerors. You've weaponized fold space technology. The implications were terrifying. We prefer to call it applied dimensional physics. And really, what did you expect? You've been erasing our memories and sabotaging our research for decades. Of course, we developed countermeasures. That's when the most deeply buried aspect of this disaster finally clicked into place. You knew about us all along," I said, the realization washing over me like a toxic tide. "Before the containment breach. Before the fold space discovery. You knew." Dr. Jackson's expression grew serious. "Not all of us. Not at first. But there have always been inconsistencies. Researchers whose groundbreaking work suddenly lost interest in their own discoveries. Astronomical observations that mysteriously failed despite perfect conditions. Data that vanished from secure servers. We've been careful," I protested. "Our interventions are designed to be undetectable. To individuals, perhaps. But patterns emerge when you look at enough data. And humans are very, very good at recognizing patterns." She leaned closer to the camera. "About 7 years ago, a small group of us began collecting these anomalies. We called ourselves the Cassandra Project. Most people dismissed us as conspiracy theorists. Until Dr. Reyes Nguyen developed a detection system that could identify the gravitational microfluctuations from your ship's drives. Impossible, I whispered, though I knew it wasn't. We had grown complacent, assuming their technology was too primitive to detect our subtle manipulations. Once we knew someone was interfering with our progress, the logical step was to create a breakthrough so significant it would force you to reveal yourselves." Her smile returned. "And here you are." Confrontation became inevitable when our long-range sensors detected a massive fold space energy buildup near Earth's moon. The readings were clear. They were preparing for a jump several orders of magnitude larger than anything they had attempted previously. How many humans could they transport with an energy signature that size? High Counselor Vexpran asked during our hastily convened emergency session. Our theoretical physicist, Dr. Quib, performed some rapid calculations. Potentially thousands. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of someone's stress sac rupturing. "The cleaning bill has been submitted to administrative services. We have no choice," Vexpran declared. "Implement containment protocol terminus. For those without proper clearance, Protocol terminus involves revealing ourselves to the contained species and establishing direct diplomatic contact. It is considered an absolute last resort, used only 3 times in the program's 12,000-year history. The paperwork alone takes centuries to complete, but we had run out of options. The diplomatic vessel I commanded entered Earth's solar system with full visibility protocols engaged. No cloaking, no subterfuge. Our ship, roughly the size of what humans call an aircraft carrier, positioned itself in orbit between Earth and its moon, directly in view of their major astronomical observatories. Global panic was predictably immediate. Human communication channels exploded with activity. Their military forces went to highest alert. Religious leaders proclaimed everything from the end times to the dawn of a new spiritual age. Financial markets crashed, then strangely rebounded when someone realized that alien existence meant new investment opportunities. Through this chaos, we broadcast a simple message on all frequencies in all human languages. People of Earth, we represent the Galactic Security Council. Your experimental spacefold technology violates containment protocols established for your protection and development. All activities must cease immediately. Representatives Jackson and Reyes-Nguyen are requested to establish communication for negotiation purposes. We expected fear, confusion, perhaps even hostility. What we didn't expect was Dr. Amara Jackson's face appearing on our communication screen exactly 7.3 minutes later, looking not surprised but triumphant. Finally, she said, "Do you have any idea how many laws of physics we had to break to get your attention?" The meeting was arranged on neutral territory, a hastily prepared facility on Earth's moon, where both our delegation and the human representatives could exist in a tolerable atmosphere. Dr. Jackson and Dr. Reyes-Nguyen led the human delegation, which also included several of their political leaders who looked considerably more nervous than the scientists. Let me be absolutely crystal clear. I began my translation device, converting my harmonic vibrations into their crude language. Your species has violated containment protocols established for your own protection and development. The penalties for such violations are severe and non-negotiable. Dr. Reyes-Nguyen raised an eyebrow, a human facial expression indicating skepticism. Non-negotiable? Yet here we are, negotiating. This is not a negotiation. High Counselor Vexpran interjected. This is us formally informing you of the consequences of your actions before we implement them. Dr. Jackson seemed amused. And these consequences would be complete technological regression, Vexpran stated. We will use our influence to guide your civilization away from space exploration entirely, redirecting your scientific development toward more appropriate channels. One of the human political leaders, their Secretary General, according to my briefing materials, finally spoke up. You intend to deliberately sabotage human progress? Based on what authority? The authority of 12,000 years of successful species management. Vexpran replied without hesitation. The containment program has prevented 17 potential interstellar conflicts and preserved countless developing civilizations, including yours. Save it, Dr. Jackson interrupted, sliding a data tablet across the table. You should see this first. The tablet displayed a star chart, but not just any star chart. It showed thousands of fold space pathways connecting Earth to every habitable world within 500 light years. Pathways they had secretly established during our pursuit. While you were chasing our decoys, Dr. Reyes-Nguyen explained with unmistakable smugness. Our other teams were building this network. There are now 317 human outposts across the galaxy, each with fold space technology. I felt my chromatophores drain to pallid shock white. Impossible. We would have detected. Your detection grid has 7 exploitable blind spots, Dr. Jackson said, tapping on the tablet to highlight specific sectors. We mapped them all by the 3rd jump. Even if this is true, Vexpran said, her voice modulated to Project Com authority despite her obvious alarm. Our enforcement capabilities far exceed your defensive measures. We could eliminate these outposts if necessary. You could try, Dr. Jackson conceded, but that would be problematic. She tapped the tablet again, bringing up a new display, a schematic of some kind. Each outpost is equipped with what we call a dead man switch. Any attempt to forcibly remove or harm our people triggers an immediate fold space cascade. The The resulting spatial disruptions would destabilize approximately 30% of your detection network. My technical advisor, who had been analyzing the schematic, made a sound that our translator couldn't process, probably because it consisted mainly of profanity. They could actually do it, she whispered to me. Their setup is crude, but effective. High Counselor Vex Pran leaned forward. Why? Why risk breaking containment when you must know the risks involved? That's when Dr. Jackson's expression turned serious. 3 years ago, our deep space telescopes detected something approaching our solar system. Something massive that absorbs all light. Your containment prevented us from developing the technology to evacuate if necessary. She slid another tablet forward, showing readings that made our scientific team gasp. You missed it, she said quietly. While watching us, you missed the real threat. Dr. Quib snatched up the tablet, his sensory tendrils extending fully in alarm as he analyzed the data. This can't be right, he muttered. The mass readings would indicate, but the Devourers were eradicated 5 million years ago. But what now? Dr. Reyes Nguyen asked, suddenly looking less confident. If these readings are accurate, Quib continued, ignoring the question, the object will reach your solar system in less than 2 of your years. 73 weeks, to be precise, Dr. Jackson confirmed. We've been tracking it since it devoured what we believe was a Kuiper Belt object near Epsilon Eridani. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. You weren't just exploring, I realized. You were establishing evacuation routes. Bingo, Dr. Jackson said with a finger-pointing gesture humans use to indicate correctness. We need to move approximately 9 billion people to safety before that thing arrives. Hence the rush on fold space technology. And the decentralized network, Dr. Reyes Nguyen added. We couldn't risk having all our eggs in one basket. High Counselor Vex Brand's bioluminescent spots were pulsing rapidly, a sign of intense calculation. If the Devourers have returned, this changes everything. Not just for Earth, but for the entire sector. She turned to me. Senior Officer Zuwais Valorn, prepare a full briefing for the entire council. Priority Alpha. Dr. Jackson, we will need all your data on this entity. Does this mean we're not in trouble anymore? Dr. Jackson asked with what I was beginning to recognize as her characteristic blend of seriousness and irreverence. On the contrary, Vex Pran replied, you're in more trouble than ever. But now, so are we. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. The Galactic Security Council declared an unprecedented level 1 emergency. Representatives from 17 advanced civilizations assembled via quantum entanglement communication to address what was now being called the Devourer crisis. I found myself in the strange position of working alongside Dr. Jackson and Dr. Reyes Nguyen, the very humans I had been trying to contain. So, these Devourers, Dr. Jackson asked as we reviewed ancient historical records in the Council's Emergency Command Center established on Earth's moon. What exactly are they? Quib displayed a holographic representation of a massive, darkness-shrouded entity. We don't know their true form. They absorb all electromagnetic radiation, making direct observation impossible. What we do know comes from the few encounters recorded by ancient civilizations. They're not a natural phenomenon. I added, they're engineered weapons from the Precursor War era, designed to consume resources, entire planets, even stars, and convert them into energy for their creators, who no longer exist. Quib continued. The precursors wiped themselves out 5 million years ago, but some of their weapons apparently survived. Self-replicating, Dr. Reyes Nguyen asked, displaying the quick understanding that had made humans so troublesome in the first place. Precisely, I confirmed. They consume, they grow, they eventually split. 1 becomes 2, 2 become 4, and what's your standard protocol for dealing with them? Dr. Jackson asked. There was an uncomfortable silence. You don't have one, do you? She pressed. The last recorded encounter was over 3 million years ago, Vex Pran said, joining our discussion. The affected sector was quarantined. Quarantined? Dr. Jackson repeated. What does that mean exactly? It means, I said reluctantly, that the standard procedure would be to evacuate all advanced civilizations from the threatened sector and establish a permanent exclusion zone, leaving Earth to be consumed, Dr. Reyes Nguyen concluded. along with approximately 42 other developing worlds in this arm of the galaxy, Quib added helpfully. Dr. Jackson stood up so abruptly that several council members reflexively activated their defensive shields. That's not an option. With respect, Dr. Jackson, Vexpran began with the tone universal to bureaucrats about to say something completely disrespectful. The Galactic Security Council must consider the greater good of all sentient life. And with respect, High Counselor, Dr. Jackson shot back. We didn't break your containment protocols just to roll over and accept extinction. We have a plan. A human plan, Vexpran said with obvious skepticism. The very same humans who managed to develop fold space technology centuries ahead of schedule, Dr. Raisin pointed out, while being actively sabotaged by an advanced alien civilization. I couldn't help but emit the harmonic equivalent of a chuckle. They had a point. Let's hear it, I said, ignoring Vexpran's look of disapproval. Dr. Jackson activated a holographic display showing a modified fold space generator of enormous proportions. We can't destroy the Devourer through conventional means, but we can remove it from our reality. You're proposing to create a fold space portal large enough to swallow the Devourer? Quib asked, his scientific curiosity clearly overcoming his reservations. Precisely. We send it somewhere it can't harm anyone, perhaps into a black hole or intergalactic space. The energy requirements would be astronomical, I noted, which is why we need your help, Dr. Raisin said. Our technology is innovative but crude. Your civilization has resources we don't. Vexpran's bioluminescent spots pulsed with conflicting patterns, the galactic equivalent of a thoughtful frown. What you're suggesting has never been attempted. Neither has allowing a Devourer to consume an inhabited sector without resistance, Dr. Jackson countered. Sometimes breaking the rules is the only way forward. What followed was the most unlikely collaboration in galactic history. The Council voted, not unanimously, I should note, to support the human plan. Resources poured in from 17 advanced civilizations. Work teams composed of species that had never directly interacted before labored alongside human scientists. And at the center of it all were Dr. Jackson and Dr. Raisin, the containment breakers who had become our last, best hope. The final device was a marvel of hybrid technology. A massive fold space generator built on the dark side of Earth's moon, incorporating elements of human ingenuity and galactic technical precision. The targeting system alone required a new branch of mathematics that Dr. Jackson developed over 3 sleepless weeks. When the Devourer crossed the orbit of what humans call Neptune, we activated the device. The resulting fold space portal was visible from Earth with the naked eye, a shimmering disruption in reality that human poets would later describe in terms ranging from beautiful to terrifying. The Devourer, drawn to the massive energy concentration, altered course directly toward it. For 76 agonizing seconds, we watched as the cosmic horror approached the portal. Then, with a reality-bending flash that temporarily disrupted sensors across the solar system, both the Devourer and the portal vanished. Our tracking systems confirmed the entity had been redirected to a predetermined point deep in intergalactic space, over 4 million light-years from the nearest galaxy. Even if it eventually recovered from the spatial trauma, it would take billions of years to reach another populated region. I am my final report as Senior Containment Officer. Before my promotion to Interspecies Liaison, I included just one personal observation. Sometimes the best containment protocol is no containment at all. The Galactic Security Council voted unanimously to reclassify humans from Contained Species Level 3 to Provisional Members, the fastest status elevation in Council history. The containment grid around Earth was repurposed as a defense network against any further extragalactic threats to Dr. Jackson now serves as Earth's first ambassador to the Council. Dr. Raisin heads the new Human Galactic Joint Research Initiative, where the fold space technology is being refined and improved through collaborative effort. As for me, I've finally gotten used to the way Dr. Jackson ends our meetings with her favorite saying, one that I've reluctantly come to appreciate. Rules are just suggestions wrapped in authority, she reminds me. And sometimes, breaking the rules saves everyone.